Hey guys, Corey. Um, After doing a little bit of research, I decided to focus on Central Park, especially in New York. But while I was doing my research, I really found the story of Seneca Village. Before, I didn't really understand what it was. Seneca Village, according to the article, was a community of predominantly African Americans, many of whom owned property. By 1855, the village consisted of approximately 225 residents, made up of roughly two-thirds African Americans, one-third Irish, and a small number of Germans. One of few African American enclaves at the time, Seneca Village allowed residents to live away from the more built up sections of downtown Manhattan and escape the unhealthy conditions and racism they faced there. End quote. Um, when I read that, it was very interesting, especially as a sustainability student, because I also found out that this community was very similar to like urban gardening or some of the things that we're trying to push for now. For example, they had a natural water source that was very close to their village. That's basically where Central Park is currently now. Um, There is some evidence, of course, there is some evidence that residents had gardens and raised livestock in Seneca Village, and the nearby Hudson River was a likely source of fishing for the community. A nearby spring, known as Tanner Spring, provided a water source. By the mid 1850s, Seneca Village comprised of 50 homes and three churches, as well as burial grounds and a school for African American students. So, they also had a lot of garden or like garden based structure to their small like micro city. They built it this way because they wanted to separate themselves from the like redlining and the social injustice when it came to pollution. They wanted to find their own solution to it. So they literally tried to find an economic basis. So they bought their own land, they bought their own resources, they built up their own small community in order to basically start down the path of sustainability. Um, in fact, it was even strange to me that in 1821, another quote, New York State required African American men to own at least $250 in property and hold residency for at least 3 years to be able to vote. Of the 100 black New Yorkers eligible to vote in 1845, 10 lived in Seneca Village. A lot of the, end quote, a lot of the people there were actually very deeply intellectual and were trying to push for a lot of different things. They were builders like us. They literally wanted to change the world around them, and even though this was very early on, they were very adamant about what they wanted to do. The challenge or the problem was basically in 18 quote begin quote in 1853 the New York State Legislature enacted a law that set aside 775 acres of land in Manhattan from 59th to 106th Street to create the country's first major landscape public park. So the government basically gave them economic incentives for them to sell their land, whether they really wanted to or not. Now, since this happened so far in the past, there's not extensive research on it, so we don't fully know what happened. But what we do know is that all of the people there had to be moved out or were forced out, and now Central Park is there over Seneca Village, and Seneca Village is kind of taken out of history books. So, as students, I just wanted to highlight this and get y'all input on this because this is new information for me. So, yeah.